Hello everyone and welcome to the Tempo Storm Meta Snapshot Breakdown. The meta has not changed all that much since the previous breakdown, aside from the deck list being more and more refined, leaving the tiers to shift around. There has been a notable jump in one deck's power level though, with Quest Warlock seeing a significant spike in play. While this deck was considered niche for a while, once players mastered the intricacies of it, its power seemed to jump. What decks are your best bet for climbing ladder? Is Demon Hunter still as broken as ever? Join us as we take a deeper look into the meta in this breakdown video. After watching this video, be sure to head on over to tempostorm.com to check out the full meta snapshot. Before we get started with tier 1 though, we'd appreciate it if you all took a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Tempo Strategy. While you're at it, be sure to turn notifications on to be kept up to date with when we upload videos. If you're looking for weekly content relating to card games ranging from Hearthstone to Legends of Runeterra, this is the place to be. Now that that's out of the way, let's jump into tier 1. Leading off tier 1 in this meta snapshot breakdown is once again Tempo Warrior. This archetype remains the powerhouse that it's been, despite being nerfed in the previous patch. This deck can simply do it all, from clearing wide boards, pressuring out the opponent early playing the control game, or even OTKing their opponent. This is easily one of the most versatile decks we've had in a while, and its success on ladder is a very good indication of it. Another reason this deck is so strong is due to its matchup spread as well. In a meta where Demon Hunter is the second best deck currently, Tempo Warrior stands to perform even better thanks to its favorable matchup against it. As for bad matchups, Tempo Warrior struggles against Gathering Priest, as they have the answers to nearly every game plan you try to play towards, making it difficult for you to stabilize a win condition without an insane draw. Next up on the tier list is the only other deck in tier 1 with Tempo Demon Hunter. This archetype has stood the test of time and continues to find itself at the top of the meta, even following its nerfs. Seemingly nothing can keep Illidan down at the moment, well, except for Warrior. Tempo Demon Hunter continues to make a mockery of the ladder, and no matter where you look, you're sure to see Illidan running rampant. When it comes to favorable matchups, Tempo Demon Hunter preys on inconsistent decks like Highlander Hunter. It can be difficult for decks like this to stabilize early, leaving them to often succumb to the pressure that you will put on. As we mentioned before, Tempo Warrior is the worst matchup for this deck. While there are other decks that do well versus Demon Hunters, we really want to stress just how badly this matchup tends to play out, making it by far the worst one currently. Sadly, tier 1 is relatively small in this meta snapshot, due simply to how much stronger the top decks are compared to other decks that people are playing. While a lot of decks are competitively viable, most of them cannot compete with how versatile and powerful these tier 1 archetypes are. Tier 2 is a bit wider than tier 1 this time around, so let's take a look at those top 3 decks within this tier. Also be sure to stick around afterward in order to see our meta countering deck for this meta snapshot. Leading off tier 2 this time is Quest Warlock. This archetype seemingly came out of nowhere, originally seeing play from a few streamers, but being regarded as a niche deck. After the nerfs, its play rate spiked, but players still were struggling to master the deck simply due to how many different situations and choices had to be navigated each turn. As players have become more experienced with Quest Warlock, its win rate spiked up, leaving players to believe it was the best deck in the game. Sadly, as more time passed, players learned how to play against Quest Warlock, leaving players to realize it was simply a tier 2 deck. This archetype can do some crazy things though, so we definitely suggest giving it a try. Quest Warlock's best matchup by far comes from Gathering Priest. This matchup is considered an auto win of sorts, with some Priest players even conceding it on turn 1. As for Quest Warlock's bad matchups, the deck tends to struggle against either Tempo Demon Hunter or Tempo Warrior, as they'll often outpressure you before you can get your game plan online. Next up within tier 2 is Spell Druid. This archetype remains in the same spot as it previously found itself, although it has been seeing more play lately. The deck can do some crazy things when it draws well, so give it a shot and see how it performs for you. While it can struggle in some of the more popular ladder matchups, given the right cues, the deck can truly perform and do some crazy things. Spell Druid has a really favorable matchup against Tempo Rogue, as the Rogue just kind of sits there and watches the Druid play solitaire. Barring an insane opener from the Rogue, or the Druid nearly entirely whiffing, this matchup can feel horrendous for Valeera. Spell Druid has a rough matchup against Tempo Demon Hunter for pretty similar reasons as to why Rogue hates playing against Druid. You spend the early turns hoping you don't get blown out, then try to stabilize in the later stages of the game, hoping it isn't too late. Malfurion really hates queuing into his brother Illidan, seeing as it's one of the worst matchups. Their family reunions probably get pretty awkward, huh? The last deck we'll be taking a look at today within tier 2 is Gathering Priest. Not only is this deck many people, including Olivia Munn's favorite, but it is also a pretty strong ladder deck. If you can endure the lengthy games and the miserable mirror matches, then Gathering Priest might be the deck for for you. If you have the stamina to go long, you can torture a lot of players on the ladder, especially warrior players. And let's be real, some of them really deserve it. Galakrond Priest plays out differently nearly every game thanks to the invoke generating random minions, so each game is sure to feel fresh and unique. As we've mentioned, this deck preys on tempo warrior and is such a good deck to pick up if you're encountering a lot of them on your climb. This matchup gets a bit worse if the warrior plays perfectly, but even GMs seem to struggle with optimizing their warrior gameplay. As with every deck, Galakrond Priest has its bad matchups though, and some of them are really bad. Both Highlander Hunter and Quest Warlock are very problematic for Priest, and can often create a lot of non-game scenarios where you feel at the mercy of your opponent. This is partly due to the decks interacting with one another, and partly payback for the torture you're inflicting on players by trapping them in long games. Karma really can suck sometimes. As with every Tempo Storm meta snapshot, we try to bring you a solid counter deck that you can take to the ladder to gain an edge. At times, this can be difficult due to Tier 1 being extremely wide, but lucky for us, only 2 decks find themselves calling this tier home. Unlucky for us though, these decks have pretty different matchup spreads, despite both being tempo decks. In order to make sure you're ready for whatever your local meta looks like though, we have 2 different suggestions for you today. The first suggestion we have is a deck that can perform well against Tempo Warrior, despite its slightly rough matchup against Tempo Demon Hunter. Highlander Mage can be a really solid choice if you're running into different builds of Warrior, but mainly the standard Enraged Tempo build. This archetype can feel high rolly at times, but it's well suited to deal with all of the Warrior's threats, and can even high roll wins in bad spots due to everyone's favorite puzzle box. The second suggestion we have for you today is a Tempo Demon Hunter counter with Control Warrior. While this archetype plays similarly to other Warrior builds, the ability to use not only risky Skipper, but also other removal cards to stall out the game can be extremely beneficial. This might genuinely be the only deck that beats Tempo Demon Hunter nearly as much as Tempo Warrior does, and as such, it can be a really solid ladder choice. Sadly, while these decks may help you beat the Tier 1 decks, it can still be difficult to squeeze wins against the top decks. These decks are the top dogs for a reason, and have survived plenty of nerfs and still live to this day. Without a balance change or heavy meta shift, it's unlikely to see these archetypes become easily targetable. In conclusion, while no new decks have really popped up and taken the meta by storm, the meta has seen some change. The archetypes may remain mostly the same, but while builds change to combat different decks that are seeing popularity spikes, the matchups of these decks change, leaving the meta to shift ever so slightly. It'll be interesting to see if the meta undergoes any large changes before the next set of cards is released, but only time will tell where things will end up. Thank you for watching our Tempo Storm Meta Snapshot breakdown. If you're interested in learning more about the meta or any decks we have featured, head on over to tempostorm.com to check out the full meta snapshot. We here at Tempo Strategy are excited for all of our content to come, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and to turn notifications on while you're there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.